Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Classic Vinyl Podcast. I'm your host, Justin. I'm here with my co-host, Tyler. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty dang good. I'm really excited about this week's episode.
Ready to tackle this one, huh?
I am so ready for Cream.
Me too. Kind of an interesting album, funny enough.
Yeah.
It's widely known as their best album, but we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm. A very psychedelic album.
I guess that's one way to put it, right?
I'll say.
So anyways, let's go straight into it. I'm going to give you a little history on the band as I know it, or as I have researched it. So, Cream. They're an English or British rock band that were formed in 1966. And they're kind of widely considered the first supergroup in history. And depends on what you want to categorize a supergroup as, but generally a supergroup is formed of musicians that have kind of already made it in previous groups. And that's kind of what this group is, It was formed of Jack Bruce, who was bass player and the vocals, Eric Clapton, guitar player and vocals, and Ginger Baker, drums and some vocals. So also known as one of the first power trios, right, when it comes to heavy rock. Mm-hmm. So, Eric Clapton, he had been in the Yardbirds, John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, and a number of other bands. Ginger Baker had been in the Graham Bond organization, and of course organization is with an S instead of a Z because we're talking British here, right?
Yeah, of course.
Jack Bruce had also been in the Graham Bond organization with Ginger Baker, and we'll get to that in a minute, but he had been in John Mayall and the Blues Breakers briefly with Eric Clapton, and he was in a group called Powerhouse with Steve Winwood and Paul Jones. And kind of the funny thing is when Eric Clapton got with Ginger Baker to form this group, Ginger was blown away when Eric wanted to have Jack Bruce in the group.
I'm blown away that a guy is named Ginger.
Well, yeah, it's a good name.
That kind of shocked me because, I think of Ginger like Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, you think of...
the movie star.
Yeah, you think of a woman, definitely. Mm-hmm. But he's an excellent drummer. There's no doubt about it.
And a pretty good singer, too. I like the song on this album.
So, Ginger Baker and Jack Bruce, when they were in the Graham Bond organization, they did not get along at all. They did not like each other at all. They had a lot of fights. Some come down to some fisticuffs. They'd mess with each other's instruments and tunings and things like that. They did not like each other. So this was when Eric Clapton suggested Jack Bruce, to be in this band. I don't think Ginger really...
It went over like a Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, kind of. But I will say this group, in my opinion, isn't much without Jack Bruce.
I really like Jack Bruce's vocals. He sounds similar to Eric Clapton, but I think he's got a much richer voice. They sound similar in style, but I preferred Jack's voice over Eric Clapton's.
Well, and that was something I was going to get to when we got to the album, but my feeling on it too is Jack Bruce is highly underrated as a singer and far superior as a singer to Eric Clapton. That's my opinion. Now, they named the group Cream because they thought of themselves as the cream of the crop.
Yeah, these guys were at the top of their game.
Yeah, they were. And Cream being, the first supergroup or whatever you want to call them, power trio, they were only together 3 years, but they released 4 albums.
Oh, wow.
Fresh Cream, Disraeli Gears, the one we're reviewing tonight, Wheels of Fire, and Goodbye. And they also released 10 singles in that time. They put out quite a bit of music. Most groups that are together 3 years, you're getting one album out of them now. It was a lot different back then, wasn't it?
For 2 people out of the 3 not getting along very well or having this kind of rivalry between them, that's working pretty good together. I'm impressed.
Yeah. And, the other thing about it is, too, since they broke up, they've released 4 live albums and 10 compilation albums. I love it. It kind of reminds me of Jimi Hendrix, He only released 4 albums, but there's been many a live album and compilation album and, studio outtakes and things like that released since he's been gone. But, a lot of people... describe Cream as, either straight rock or blues rock or even hard rock. Mm-hmm. I think they have elements of each in the band, and I think it's kind of hard to categorize them.
And they show that in different ways throughout the albums. You see the blues rock, you see the psychedelic rock, you see the hard rock.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of a sign of the times in a way, as everybody was trying to find their way. And because you got to realize back in 67 when this was released, this kind of sound was kind of new in some ways. You had a lot of guys infusing the blues and things, but trying to make it a heavier rock. And I think it was just a time of creative passion, that turned into a lot of different things. So, Cream they've sold over 15 million albums worldwide, which isn't too shabby for having 4 albums released in 3 years. Their first album, Fresh Cream, it hit number 6 in the UK, which was pretty decent, but only hit number 39 in the US. Disraeli Gears, the album we're reviewing tonight, hit number 5 in the UK and number 4 in the US. It was really their breakthrough album here in the US. Wheels of Fire, number 3 in the UK, and hit number 1 in the US. That was their only number 1 album in the US. Goodbye, their final album, which they actually made after they announced their breakup in 1968. They decided to go back in and make the final album. It reached number 1 in the UK and number 2 in the US. So it's a pretty good showing. 3 of the 4 albums were in the top 4 in the US, and all 4 albums were in the top 10 in the UK. So it's a pretty decent showing for a group. Like I said, they broke up in 1968, and of course it was mainly due to tensions between Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's good that it lasted as long as it did, right?
Yeah, and I'm really glad that they had that one. It's like when you have a relationship breakup, you have that one final bang to go out on. These guys, they did not get along, but boy, they could play good together.
Certainly. So this band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame fairly early in 1993, deservedly so, even though I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is kind of a joke when it comes to the bands and the artists they choose and the ones they don't. It's just kind of crazy.
It seems kind of arbitrary.
It really is. It's kind of, we give all these Rolling Stones facts, Rolling Stone magazine, not the band, facts of where this album hit and where this single hits. And I want people to know that I look at that, as you said, as an arbitrary number as well, because Rolling Stone is pretty much a joke as well. Yeah. I mean, they just released not too long ago, their top however many songs, and you have Beyonce songs in the top 20 and things like that, and it's just kind of a joke in my opinion, but there is some validity to it, especially some of their older lists, and so we use it for useless facts or useful facts or however you want to see it.
I wonder if Gangnam Style is in the top 20.
I hope not.
It shouldn't be anymore if it ever was.
No, it shouldn't be. So obviously, with Cream breaking up in 1968 and then them being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 93, they did have a short reunion of the original band members in 2005. They performed 4 shows at the Royal Albert Hall in London and then 3 shows at Madison Square Garden. And the band did kind of live on in a certain way. Eric Clapton and Ginger Baker went on to form the band Blind Faith with Steve Winwood and Rick Gretsch. And obviously they didn't have Jack Bruce, in that because apparently Ginger Baker and Jack Bruce,
they're bad blood.
Yeah, they did not work well with each other, apparently. So
that's an amusing little fact to me.
Yeah. The album we're reviewing tonight is Cream's second studio album, Disraeli Gears, so it's time to get to the album.
And now it's time for the album review.
Okay, so it was Cream's second album they released on November 2nd of 1967. And like I stated earlier, it reached number 5 in the UK and number 4 in the US. It actually reached number 1 in a lot of small countries, or small population countries, I should say, Australia, Sweden, Finland, and a few others as well.
I'm just blown away that, like, usually with the other albums that we've seen, there's a big disparity between the UK and the US charting, but number 5, number 4, that's like neck and neck.
Well, you see that, yeah, it is, but you see that on their first album, Fresh Cream, hit 6 in the UK and only 39 in the US. So, but that's usually what we're seeing, especially for debut or sophomore albums. It seems like it. If they're a British band, it does take them a while to really hit it in the U.S., but it's amazing that some of the songs, we've even seen that with singles, haven't we? Like the single will be a smash in England, and it'll hit like number 80 in the charts in the U.S., or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. So to see these guys, it seems like they really had a sound for the time, and they had a good grip on that sound and how to create what people wanted to listen to.
Yeah, well, and I think what helped him, and also the fact, how we spoke about him being the first super group, essentially, I think that definitely helped him. People knew who Eric Clapton was, most especially.
Yeah, for sure.
Being in the Yardbirds and things like that. This album was recorded in New York City at Atlantic Studios, which is kind of strange for a British band, but the album only took 4 days to record. Pretty quick. I mean, nowadays you're working longer than that on one line in a song,
I wonder how much of this is like Eric Clapton having to be the mediator between these two, or is Ginger and Jack sitting there like, all right, we hate each other's guts, let's get this done so we don't have to spend any more time with each other than we have to.
I think it's a little of both, honestly.
Yeah.
Because from what I've read, Ginger was very, very surprised that Eric suggested Jack Bruce, but, he really wanted to be in this group and he really wanted to put it together. And so he was willing to put his feelings aside to work with him on this. So, but apparently it didn't last very long. Even the money and success didn't, it wasn't enough to make it go on. But a guy named Felix Papalardi was the guy that produced this album. He's got kind of an interesting story because he's produced a lot of bands, like the Youngbloods, Mountain, a famous band that sang Mississippi Queen, and a few, and a bunch of other smaller bands. But he ended up playing bass and singing co-vocals in the band Mountain. So not only did he produce them, he was a member of the band. And as we go through these songs, you'll notice he actually helped write quite a few of these songs as well.
Oh,
so kind of interesting. And you've got an Australian artist named Martin Sharp. He created the artwork for the album. And when you look at the album, I mean, it's, as you've seen, it's a complete psychedelic collage of an album, right? It's got the title in the middle, and it's barely visible in kind of a psychedelic font. And the band name, Cream, obviously is in a much larger font down towards the bottom, and it is quite a bit larger than the actual album name. Then you got the 3 band members that are pictured at the top.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of a quintessential psychedelic era band.
Yeah, was this like the first album of that style? Because it seems like this has been imitated.
No, I don't think this was. I think you had the Zombies and a bunch of other band albums that had come out that were really similar. And I mean, of course, this is in November of '67. You had Sgt. Pepper's had come out that summer, which was kind of a different album cover, with all the people lined up on it. I don't know. It's an interesting and a classic album cover altogether. I think anybody that's ever seen it knows what we're talking about there. So the album Disraeli Gears has sold over 1 million copies worldwide, which isn't too bad. It's got a lot of short songs on this album. And the one thing it doesn't contain is the band's well known for playing improvised, really long jam sessions live, right? I mean, they're really well known for that. And a lot of the live albums that have come out and the DVDs you can watch of them, you see a lot of those, they get deep into those blues rockers and stuff and just improvise it all to hell and play it out. But this album doesn't really have any of that. It's a short album. It's probably the shortest album we've reviewed.
It's amazing how much of that gets cut down when you're not going off on just this improvisation.
Yeah, but I enjoy that. I enjoy the jamming, and I mean, you've got artists like this. I mean, I think Ginger Baker is more than an adequate drummer. Jack Bruce is a highly, highly underrated bass player. He's an amazing bass player. And Eric Clapton, we know what he can do on guitar. He's certainly no Jimi Hendrix. And I'm going to state this right up front. I'm not a huge Eric Clapton fan. I'm just not a huge fan of his work.
That's okay. We'll forgive you.
I appreciate that. I do like some of the songs he was involved in with John Mayall. I like some of the songs he's involved with the Yardbirds. Obviously, a few with Derek and the Dominoes, and obviously Cream. He's got some really good songs. But it seems like, when we talk about Baker and Bruce having the problems, sometimes it seems like the ego of Eric Clapton may have been the leading factor to a lot of these groups not lasting long, because they, whenever he was involved, they didn't seem to last very long. But
he's the cooler.
He must be.
As soon as people are feeling hot, he joins the band and they break up 2 years later.
So Disraeli Gears the album itself was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1999, which, that's an honor. And there's not a lot of bands' albums that make it that far. Speaking of Rolling Stone magazine, they did rate this as number 112 on their 500 greatest albums of all time. And
I'd say that's pretty fair.
Well, we'll see where it fits in.
Yeah.
We obviously are reviewing the original album, but they did release a deluxe version in 1998 that has, obviously some outtakes and some different versions of songs, and it's remastered and remixed.
There's probably some improvisation in there, too.
There might be a little bit. But it's time to get to the album review. So side one.
Side 1.
And we start out with Strange Brew.
Strange Brew. This had some sexy music.
Yes, it did. So let me give you a little history on this song first. It was written by Clapton, Felix Pappalardi, and Gail Collins, which I'm not sure who Gail Collins is. This is one of the songs that Eric Clapton sings lead vocals on. This is one of the songs that Eric Clapton sings lead vocals on. This song was released as a single in the UK, and it charted at number 17, which isn't too bad, The B-side of the single was Tale of Brave Ulysses. Getting to this song, what did you think of it?
That's a really interesting single and side B. I'm shocked to learn that a little bit because, especially having listened to these songs now. This is a really interesting witchy song. It's really cool, and the guitar bending in this is that the whammy bar or is that
It sounds almost like a wah pedal or some kind of effect pedal, but it's also, and I don't know if it's the guitar you're hearing at the first or throughout the song, but it sounds like there's almost a horn in this or something. This is a really tough song for me because I don't even know how to describe this song. It doesn't fit into rock. It doesn't really fit into blues.
It's almost folksy the way he's singing about this witch is what.
Yeah, I mean it's got a decent guitar solo in the middle, in the middle of the song, but it's kind of a mellow, slower guitar solo. And then it's got that little silence break towards the end, and then kind of a false ending, and it kicks back in. But this song, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I don't really. Whatever that horn sound is, if it's created by a guitar or whatnot, I think it could have done without that. I've listened to this song for years. I know the song, and I enjoy the song. It's a decent song, but it's when you sit down to review this thing and you're trying to describe, is this a rock song or a blues song or heavy song? It's really none of them. I think you hit it right. It's probably almost like a heavy blues folk song.
Yeah. This is a very blues-oriented album, but that song that it starts off with, you wouldn't say, oh, this is blues.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, and I think the vocals by Clapton are kind of weak in this. I don't think he'd really found his place as a vocalist yet.
No, he's, I don't know, there's something about his style of singing that's not... He's got a very similar sound with Jack...
Jack Bruce.
Yeah, Jack Bruce. Jack Bruce just seems to have a bit more refinement in his sound.
Yeah, and I've always had a hard time, for the longest time, knowing Clapton is kind of the most famous member of Cream. I thought for years and years that Clapton sang all the songs.
Because they do sound very similar.
They sound
style.
similar, but you're right. Eric Clapton's vocals aren't as refined. He doesn't have as much range on them. Like I said, Jack Bruce is a very underrated singer. Most people, and I'm sure you're included, have never heard of Jack Bruce.
I hadn't. This is my first introduction to him, sure.
And he's done a number of solo albums. He toured with Ringo Starr and his all-star band for quite a while. He's an amazing bass player and a very competent singer. I mean, more than competent. I don't think that's giving him credit. This song for me kind of falls in the middle on this album. It's kind of a lost song as far as being able to describe what it's about. But
I have to completely agree with you there because this song isn't the star of the album. It's a good, strong opener. This song is a better fit for opening the album than the song that they chose to close the album out.
Well, and we'll definitely get into that. Yeah. And I 100% agree with you. And this song still gets quite a bit of radio play to this day.
People know this song. I mean, you might not know it as Strange Brew, but you've heard this song.
Yeah,
It's very common.
if you
very
listen to
common.
any kind of classic rock stations or whatever, it gets played. You know, I rate this song pretty much in the middle on this album.
Me too.
You know, but
Yeah.
but it is kind of strange. So we move on to song 2, most likely the most well-known song, "Sunshine of Your Love." This one, given a little facts about this, it was written by Jack Bruce and Eric Clapton together. Jack Bruce is the lead vocals on this. Now, this was their second single released, and it only reached number 25 in the UK, but it did reach number 5 in the US, which is actually Cream's highest ranked single in the US. And I find that kind of strange that this hit number 25 on the chart in the UK, yet Strange Brew hit number 17. That's kind of strange to me. This song is a very powerful song, and this is the quintessential Cream sound and song. The B-side of the single was SWLABR, which we'll get to what that stands for when we get to it later. Jack Bruce came up with the riff after hearing Jimi Hendrix play. He went to see Jimi Hendrix, and he thought, we need to have some riffs like that, and he come up with it on the spot.
Sounds just like Jimmy. This song is very heavily influenced by The Experience.
Yeah, I mean, this has got the most well-known riff out of any Cream song, in my opinion. You know, this song was certified gold in 1968 after the single sold over 1 million copies. Rolling Stone ranks this number 65 on their greatest songs of all time. And like I said, I think this is Cream's most well-known song, and it probably gets the most radio play, either this or White Room. You know, but the thing is
this song's all over cinema and television. It's in the background of so many movies and TV shows.
yeah, and this is one, even though it does get a lot of radio play, I don't get tired of this song. I mean, I'm without a doubt, and I know we'll get to this at the end, but this falls to the top of my list on this album.
Yeah, they don't play it to death, and this is one of my favorites from the album.
Well, so this has got an epic intro on it. You know, it's one of the first guitar intros I actually learned on electric guitar. Still play it every once in a while, you know. It's kind of a, love song basically, you know, but it's got the heavy guitar throughout. I love how heavy the guitar is. I love how heavy the guitar is in the chorus. It's got an excellent guitar solo, and the ending is really heavy and good the way it ends. There's not much I don't like about this song. I even like the lyrics, you know. Give me my dawn surprise.
My dawn surprise.
What do you think that is? What's he giving her in the morning?
I
Must be something like that.
guess so.
But this is an excellent song. I rank this one very high, and we'll get to that at the end. But what are your thoughts on this song musically and lyrically?
This song is it's a work of art. It's beautiful. And, it's got that, it's, I think you're absolutely right. This is the quintessential Cream song.
Yeah, I think this, epitomizes that power trio sound, that super group sound. I mean, this song hits everything. The first album, Fresh Cream, was quite a bit different. This album has some heavier licks. A lot of people consider this album heavy or consider Cream heavy. I don't really. I think Cream's got heavy offerings, but then they've got a lot that are blues, and they've got a lot of kind of strange songs too that fit into some kind of different category. I just don't know where.
He's been waiting so long.
Excellent song. So we move on to the next song, song 3, World of Pain. And one thing I can say about this song, there's a tree outside his window.
Oh yeah. There's definitely, he tells you several times that there is a tree outside his window.
So this song wasn't written by anyone in the group. It was written by Felix Pappalardi and Gail Collins. The vocals are by Jack Bruce with some supporting vocals from Clapton. The song deals with a lot of emotions of solitude and loneliness.
Oh, this is a very emo song before emo became a thing.
It is. I mean, you've got that solitude and loneliness that's felt in your world of pain, right?
Yeah,
And
it's got that blues influence, but this isn't it doesn't sound like the blues, even though this song is exactly what the blues is.
well, it's got some pretty cool guitar effects in it. I feel like this song should be a lighter, like not as heavy of a song as it is, but it's almost like a heavy ballad in a way.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of got that element of heaviness to it. Now, the one thing I do like in this are the vocal harmonies. I believe they're harmonies between Clapton Clapton and Jack Bruce. If not, the vocals might be double dubbed over or something like that. But
I think you're right. It sounds like they're duetting. Sometimes.
yeah, and I don't know. I think Bruce and Clapton together have some of the most recognizable and best sounding harmonies that I've heard. And, it's just kind of I don't know how to explain this song. It just feels like it should be a light ballad, but it's heavier than it should be.
Because it's got this real heavy theme of kind of this depression of sitting there and pondering mortality and existence and what's like the whole purpose of living when there's such a world of pain that we live in.
And this tree outside his window is really pissing him off too.
Yeah, because just because it exists, because it's there.
Yeah, I don't get that part. I do getting back into the music, the wailing guitar right at the end is excellent. It's just kind of a weird put together song, but it's an okay song. For me, it fits somewhere in mid album. I mean, it's
once again, we're in agreement. Yeah, this wasn't on my top or bottom.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I find this one a decent song. Probably not a skipper, not one I'm gonna repeat play all the time on my playlist.
And it's definitely not overplayed on the radios.
No, I don't think I've ever heard this song on the radio. No. So we move to the next song, Dance the Night Away. This song was written by Jack Bruce and Peter Brown. It's sang by Jack Bruce, and it's about, escaping from a failed relationship. As far as I'm concerned with the music on this, it's got a really good bass line. This is the first, I should say Sunshine of Your Love had an excellent bass line, excellent guitar work, everything. But this is the first song for me on the album that the bass line really sticks out. The drumming is excellent in it, but it almost sticks out too much. Yeah. The drumming's kind of crazy, almost moon crazy.
It's a very psychedelic song.
Yeah, but the drumming doesn't seem to fit with it as much.
No, the drumming is not weird as the rest of the song makes you feel.
Yeah, and, I try to put myself back into the shoes of 1967 and hearing these. This is another song, kind of like World of Pain, the song we heard right before this, that feels like the song should be lighter than it is, but it's the backing music to it's a little heavier than it should be. Maybe that's a bad way to put it. Not than it should be, but then what it feels like it could be. The guitar's not very prominent in this one, but it's good. You don't have the guitar up front. There's definitely, you're getting a heavier bass line and the crazy drums, which to me, that's the only thing about this song that's out of place is the drumming's good, but it doesn't seem to quite fit.
No, there's something about this song with that theme of escaping from a failed relationship where it seems like maybe they play the drums and the bass a bit heavier as a way to drown out the sorrow, to drown out those feelings. It's got some really good writing in it. Jack Bruce, I can tell you that stars are very important to him. He mentions stars a couple of times in this.
Well, I'm pretty sure...
Building his castle in the clouds.
I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure Peter Brown wrote the lyrics to this and Jack Bruce wrote the music, but I could be wrong on that.
Well, then Peter Brown. Stars are very important to Peter Brown.
Musically, I really, really like the bass on this. I just wish they would have done something with the drums and brought the guitar up front a little more. But once again, it feels like it should be a softer ballad than it is, but it's got that heavy undertone.
Yeah. And the only thing that I can imagine that they made the instruments so heavy on this is that theme of trying to drown out the sorrow of the failed relationship.
Yeah, it could be.
That's the only thing that I can justify it with. But other than that, you're absolutely right.
So this song for me falls in that, once again, that category of kind of mid-range.
It's mid-range.
It's definitely not the worst song on the album. We all know which one that one is.
Yeah.
But it's not the best by any means. But it's a decent song, a good listen. So we go to the last song on side one.
Yeah.
I don't like this song at all.
Oh, really? And this is one of my favorites.
And I knew we were going to get to that. I knew it. So Blue Condition. This was written by Ginger Baker, and the vocals are also by Ginger Baker.
Yeah. A baritone.
Without a doubt.
He's got a much deeper voice than either Jack or Eric.
Well, and he's singing about being depressed and having the blues in this, obviously, because he's in a blue condition, right? To me, this song feels like some kind of show tune. I don't like the bass on it. I don't like the guitar on it. And Ginger Baker, he isn't a horrible singer by any means, but there's a reason he's not the lead singer. And it's kind of a monotone singing, and there's portions of the song that kind of remind me of a carnival or something.
He's a little bit Cockney too. Like he's got that kind of Jason Statham sounding East Ender.
You can certainly hear you can certainly hear
He's got that rough
dialect.
His
in
dialect
his voice.
of the East End.
You can certainly hear it where you don't hear it when Bruce or Clapton sing. You don't hear that, and you certainly hear it on this. And Ginger Baker's definitely not a lead singer. I'm not a fan of this song. I'm not a fan of the song's music, and I'm certainly not a fan of the vocals. You obviously are, so tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, what I liked about this and why this was one of my favorite songs is because how well it captured depression.
So you're deciphering the lyrics.
Yeah, the lyrics, and it's just really portraying that when you're depressed, everything sucks. In fact, I wrote that twice on here. Being depressed makes everything seem like it sucks, and then being depressed sucks.
Yeah, and I'm not really deciphering the lyrics as much as I just don't like the music to this, and I don't like the vocals. And it give me...
I don't think you like being depressed.
Well, that could be it.
Yeah.
This made me depressed, yeah.
Yeah.
To me, the very first of the song sounded like a show tune, and then it kind of kicked into feeling carnival-like, and it just was a strange arrangement all the way around.
Yeah, you're right about that carnival-like part. It didn't fit.
Yeah, I guess for me, when I listen to certain bands, I've talked about them before, Grand Funk Railroad, 10 years after, jam bands, Cream, who's supposed to be the heavy power trio, heavy rock. This does not define Cream to me. And I know, you can talk about that with a lot of bands. The Beatles are a good example. They didn't hardly make any songs that sounded like the others. So you've got to have that diversity, but this song just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, this wasn't the masterpiece of the band.
No, but this song is definitely going to fall to the bottom somewhere for me. So, and I know for you, it's going to rise a little higher.
Yeah, it was. Well, and for me, it was really just about how well they painted the picture.
Well, and sometimes that's all it's about.
Well done, Ginger Baker. You captured depression.
So we move on to side 2.
Side 2.
We open up with Tale of Brave Ulysses. So to give a little history on this song was written by Eric Clapton and Martin Sharp. The vocals are by Jack Bruce on this. This was actually, as we talked about earlier, the B-side to Strange Brew. And one interesting thing about this, and one of the things I like best about it, it's one of the earliest known uses of the wah-wah pedal for the guitar on recorded music. I love the vocals that open this song. The guitar is great through the whole thing. The bass line is excellent. Once again, it proves how underrated Jack Bruce is as a bass player. And I don't think I think he's underrated as far as contemporary culture, right? I think anybody that knows music and knows this kind of music knows, Jack Bruce is a heavy hitter when it comes to playing bass. They know he has excellent vocals as well. This song, according to Eric Clapton, was inspired by his trips to the Greek islands. Somehow he got the Brave Ulysses thing out of that. It's got excellent short guitar solo in it. I like this song all the way through musically. I like the lyrics in it. The vocals are very, very strong. This is definitely one of my top songs. What are your thoughts on it?
I have one note written on this song, and that's "Sirens Are Dangerous."
Now, what do you mean by that?
Sings about the song of the siren hurts his naked ear or something like that.
See, here you go again, deciphering the lyrics.
Yeah, I'm deciphering the lyric.
It's funny. I decipher, the bass line and the guitar line, and you decipher the lyrics.
Yeah, and I guess I'm really not qualified to be doing a review on this.
Who is? I mean, I'm
are?
certainly, yeah. I'm certainly not qualified.
You're listening to the instruments and how well they mesh together. And I'm just like, oh, it's got a nice tune. If only the lyrics were better.
But isn't that what's great about music is you take the music for what it is. You decipher the meaning to you and how it makes you feel. And that can be the lyrics. That can be the bass. That can be the drums and be guitar. It can be the whole package put together, right?
I was so uninspired by a song that was inspired by the Greek islands All I did was write one little note that sirens are dangerous.
Well, that's interesting.
And that's why it drops to one of my least favorite.
It'll be interesting when we get to winners and losers, because it sounds like we're going to be pretty far off on this
I think we are. Yeah, this is going to be a good one.
Okay, so now we get to SWLABR, which actually stands for She Was Like a Bearded Rainbow.
And that's that's what the theme of this, the lyrics in this song are.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. So the music on this was written by Jack Bruce, and the lyrics, again, written by Peter Brown. Vocals by Jack Bruce. Now, this was the B-side to Sunshine of Your Love. As far as my take on this song, it's got really good bass lines and heavy guitar throughout. I really like the guitar on this song. This song is pretty strong. It's got an excellent guitar solo. I like the imagery and the lyrics on this, and I did really, try to dive into the lyrics,
I like the lyrics on this one.
Yeah, but the picture has a mustache. But the rainbow has a beard. It's got some interesting lyrics.
It's trying to paint a picture of a girl, and this girl is a beautiful thing to look at. She's a beautiful girl, but she's got a beard. She's got a beard. She's got a mustache.
Yeah, and that's where I tried to decipher the lyrics a little bit, but I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what he's getting at in this.
It's like you've got that girl feel if the girl was masculine.
Well, when you look at the title of the song, She Was Like a Bearded Rainbow, and I'm taking that as that she is beautiful, but she's got this flaw. And I think that maybe it's more
like the Seinfeld episode with man hands.
Well, I haven't seen that, but anyway, do you think this is more literal, or do you think it's just saying that she's beautiful and all this, but there's something wrong with her in a way?
Sure.
Or do you think she really has a beard? I mean,
I doubt it's literal and that she has it. Well, but then again, this is a very psychedelic song. In fact, one of the notes that I wrote here is these guys play for people who like LSD.
Well, and that could be, I'll tell you this much. I musically, I really enjoy this song.
Yeah.
The lyrics are kind of humorous when you're singing about bearded rainbows.
It's a fun ride, but yeah.
Pictures that have mustaches, but this is a really good song, musically. I think it stands up as
it does.
A decent song for the
This
album.
is one of my favorites on the album, for sure.
Mine as well. So we go on to the next song, We're Going Wrong, written by Jack Bruce, vocals by Jack Bruce. It's got a lot of psychedelic guitar on this one from Clapton.
Yeah.
It's kind of played in a weird time signature, unlike their others. It's in a 6/8 time signature, which gives it a really weird, kind of irregular sound. It's kind of different.
And Eric Clapton has this regular strum on the guitar that just he keeps coming, but it's not like a ticking of a clock every second, but it's like ticking every 2 seconds or so. But it's so regular. His timing's perfect on it, and it just gives you that sense of like a clock ticking.
Yeah, this one was
slowly.
Yeah, and this song was a little subdued. This one's got good drumming on it as well. This is another song where I don't feel like the drumming fit into it at all. I thought the drums were really strange on it.
Yeah.
The vocals were kind of strange. It's kind of in a falsetto, but the vocals are really drawn out. I mean, if you look at the lyrics on this song, there's really only a couple verses and it draws them out over the whole song, right?
Yeah, let's see, what was the other song that he had that same, it was that the World of Pain. Yeah, where he kind of had that stretched out thing.
Yeah, this one he really stretches him out, and he's singing in the falsetto, which this is one I don't like Jack Bruce's singing on very well. It's got a slow bass line. It's okay. It's got some decent guitar licks in it, but the guitar in this song, again, is not very prominent. Going to Cream, I wouldn't find myself saying that all the time. You would think full bore ahead, with heaviness. And I think Cream, in my opinion, listening to a lot of their live albums, they're a better live band than they are a studio band.
This song had a very eerie opening, and it kind of maintained that feel. Like it's an unsettling feeling. And I'm sure that people that had dropped acid before listening to this song fell out of their chairs.
God, you're really into acid.
Well, this is a very psychedelic band, very, drug themed. So
yeah, and I honestly
people were tripping right out of their chairs.
Yeah, and I honestly don't know how involved in drugs Cream was, but
Well, and this is coming from me, who's never done drugs in my life.
well,
I have a hard time taking an aspirin. Just ask my wife.
so not a bad song, but it is certainly not going to fall in the top for me.
Yeah, this one's down there to some of my least favorites. Maybe I didn't get it, but it was unsettling.
Yeah,
and I didn't enjoy that.
For
feeling.
me, the weird time signature on it and not having guitar or bass really pumped to the front, the drums being just way too crazy for this song, and then the vocals being stretched out in that weird falsetto. There wasn't much I like about this song.
What I do like about the lyrics is, I'm curious about what Jack Bruce was thinking about when he wrote this. Like, what is this? Like, we're going wrong. What is it that's going wrong? Is it a relationship that's going wrong? Is it a bigger, more political thing? Like, getting involved in Vietnam? Is that we're going wrong?
It could be a little bit about everything, right? Just the world in general.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
So
maybe it's about him and Ginger Baker.
Is there a way to make it right? And, that's a possible thing, too, is, a relationship of some sort, not necessarily a romantic one, but a professional one. I don't know. You've met people where all of a sudden you start to get this vibe that, like, I'm not going to like you, am I?
Well, that's how all my best friends turned out to be. I
is
didn't
it?
like them very much at first. And I'm honest with that, is probably the best friends I've ever had in my life. When I first met them, I didn't care for them much. So I'm a horrible judge of character. Either that or I do enjoy horrible people. I don't know. It's one of the two. I don't know.
But this is kind of the opposite of that. This is like when you get together with someone and you've got a positive attitude, we're going to get along great. And then you start to get this vibe that, wow, you really just castigated that waitress for nothing. Not going to get along, are we?
So the next song is Outside Woman Blues. It's a cover song that was originally recorded by Blind Joe Reynolds. He's a blues artist in 1929. Pretty old song. It's funny. You think of that as being an old song. It wasn't even 40 years old when they recorded, and now we're reviewing a Cream song that's
It's older than
60
that.
years. Yeah, it's kind of strange. But Eric Clapton is lead vocals on this, and kind of a funny thing about this song is Clapton also released this later as on one of his solo albums. So getting into that, I don't know why he did, because this is pretty much a straight blues rock song.
Yeah.
I don't think the vocals are very strong on it, once again, from Clapton. I just don't think he had found himself. But once again, I'm not a Clapton fan.
Yeah.
Huge Clapton fan, so take it for what it is.
I have to agree with you there. He's just not a great vocalist.
He gets better, in later years. Derek and the Dominoes, he was stronger when it come to that. I mean, he had a little more experience as far as singing. But it's got kind of the same guitar lick throughout. It's got an okay guitar solo, which I think was probably for me the shining part of the song. But overall, it's just kind of a blues cover that is okay, but forgettable as far as I'm concerned. What are your thoughts?
I think they did a good job staying true to the blues roots, because this very much is a blues song talking about an outside woman, which I guess is a piece that you got on the side. Yeah, the whole theme of this is you can't have a wife and a side piece, because sooner or later, the wife's going to find out about it, and then she's going to be upset, and you won't have a wife anymore. Some really good lyric writing in that. Like, if you lose your woman, please don't fool with mine.
Yeah, to me, it's an okay song, but
and I think they did a good job with the blues, but it's not this isn't Cream.
Yeah, it's a filler song that's okay, but forgettable. So that brings us to the next song, Take It Back. This, the music was written by Jack Bruce on this, and the lyrics, once again, written by Peter Brown. Vocals by Jack Bruce. This song is about the desire to stay home from war, basically urging the government to take your draft card back. And the kind of interesting thing about this song is Outside Woman Blues actually fades right into this song.
It really fits in nicely.
Yeah, if you're not paying attention, you don't know the song ended,
This is a very bluesy song, so one blends into the other very well.
This is kind of a standard blues rock song, but it's sped up quite a bit. And once again, Jack Bruce's vocals on this are very strong. And I wrote this down once again that I prefer Jack Bruce's vocals to Clapton's on this. On any song.
I jotted down the same note.
Really?
I did.
Yeah, he's much stronger singer. He just is.
Yeah.
This is pretty decent as a blues jam song. You know, I think it'd be really good stretched way out. I believe I've heard this one in concert a couple times, and it's about 3 times as long, and they improvise it out. And to me, it's much better done that way. But it's, you know, once again, an okay song, you know, but not super strong. What are your thoughts on it?
I have to agree. This isn't their strongest, but you know, I think that the blues is a great way to approach what he's writing about or singing about is the Vietnam War. Like, yeah, I got drafted. I got my draft card, and that's going to upset my lifestyle. It's going to upset my hairstyle. And he's, you know, just posing the question of, hey, maybe rather than upset all these plans that these young men have made, all their lifestyles, hairstyles, etc., and their private lives, why don't you just rescind the draft and take back all the draft cards instead of having people run into Canada and burning their draft cards?
Yeah, it seems like an easy fix, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but then again, that's the blues, is that you can't fight the government. You can't, the government's not going to bend to your will.
So an okay song, but it is what it is. So that, I don't even know if we ought to do this last song, but
this last song's so funny.
last song on the album, Mother's Lament.
It's very much from the British people.
Well, it is. It's actually a traditional song. It's an older song, but the arrangement and lyrics were redone by Clapton, Baker, and Jack Bruce. All 3 members sing on this. It's the shortest song on the album, not even quite 2 minutes long.
It sings a lot like, you know, something that you'd hear kids singing around the schoolyard sort of thing, like an irreverent fairy tale or nursery rhyme sort of song.
Well, and I wrote on the notes that it sounds like the band's drunk and just having a good time in the studio trying to find a filler song for it. They basically have too thin of a baby and it gets washed down the drain and goes to heaven, and the lyrics are kind of weird.
It was a weird way to end the album, for sure.
Yeah, and to me, this is a skipper on the album. This is one that doesn't need to be on the album. It's not long enough that it fills anything.
And definitely not the way to end your album. What were they thinking?
No, yeah, not a good way at all. Not a good song. I would probably, you know, when we get to winners and losers, as we're going to go to right now, I would probably rate this song as my worst, but I'm not sure it's a song. So
yeah, exactly. Well, like I said, this is more like something that you'd hear kids singing while they're doing jump rope out on a schoolyard.
Yeah, so let's go to winners and losers.
Winners and losers.
What are your top 2 favorite songs and your bottom 2 least favorite songs on this album?
Top 2, I'm going with Sunshine of Your Love, and that one's going to be my top. Also, I'm going to go with the SWLABR, She Was Like a Bearded Rainbow. I really like that song. It was a fun song. So
yeah, well, and you always enjoy fun songs. You know?
I do. I really get a kick out of fun songs. Least favorite, the Tales of Brave Ulysses. Sorry, Mr. Clapton, you just kind of lost me. I didn't get it, what you were trying to tell me. Also, I put the We're Going Wrong as least favorite, just because it was so unsettling. It made me feel like I was going.
So where does Mother's Lament fit into that?
Oh yeah, that's on the album too, isn't it?
You're just not even going to consider that a song, are you?
No, I'm not.
You're not even going to consider that a song, are you?
I'm not going to dignify that, whatever it was. What about you?
So my favorite song on the album, we're online, is Sunshine of Your Love. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So we're both right on with that, the same, but here's where we're going to fall different. Tale of Brave Ulysses is my second favorite song on this album. Yes.
Well, you're a lot smarter than I am.
Yeah.
You understood what Eric Clapton was trying to tell you.
Well, I like the musical quality of that song more than anything. I think the vocals are strong, and the heaviness of that song is what gets me. You know, I like the heavy blues versions of.
You know, that's fair. I probably should. I shouldn't be listening to this album so much for what the message of the songs is, the lyric wise, because that's where it lost me. Musically, beautiful song.
Well, and just like SWLABR that you raked as your second favorite song, that's probably my third favorite song musically. The lyrics kind of throw me off a little bit. It's kind of weird that way, but it's a very strong song. Obviously, the song I like least is Mother's Lament, and probably my other one would be the one that you quite liked by Ginger Baker, which is Blue Condition. I do not like that song.
Yeah, and that's fair. It's a weird song. The way that he sings it. I mean, I put that one in my top 3. That's being a little extreme there, Ty. I put that one in my top 5. Okay, on this album. So it's in the top half, but it's not a pretty song. It's not a great song, and it's very much like an emo song, just blues for the sake of depression.
I just don't like the music in it, and I don't like the vocals in it. And there's just not much good about that song for me. But it was better than Mother's Lament, slightly.
Well, I'll tell you, he captured how bad it sucks to be depressed and have depression.
Yeah, he certainly did that. Okay, so it's time to rate the album.
Album rating.
Where do you rate this album on a scale of 1 to 10?
You know, for such a genius band, I mean, the collection of these 3 power trio, I expect a bit more from them, honestly. That being said, they deliver with a couple of these songs. They really have a couple of big hits out of this album. So I really want to rate it higher than I do, but I'm going to have to give this one about a 6. Just because for that shining star of the Sunshine of Your Love, the rest of the album is this albatross hanging around the album's neck, just dragging it down. All right, what about you?
So I'll probably, like you, upset some of the Cream fans.
I'm sure I did.
There's 11 songs on this album, and in my opinion, only 4 are really worth hearing. And that's Sunshine of Your Love, Tale of Brave Ulysses, stands for She Was Like a Bearded Rainbow, and Strange Brew is okay. Those 4 songs are very strong, in my opinion. But,
yeah, we need more of that.
Yeah,
right?
But the other 7 songs are either okay or not okay.
Yeah.
You know, take them or leave them. And so for me, you know, this is Cream's most popular album of all time. Everyone ranks it high in their albums and all that. To me, what come out of it, especially like Sunshine of Your Love and Tale of Brave Ulysses, in my opinion, those are heavy songs and they have that Cream sound. But 4 out of 11 songs does not make a great album. Yeah. That's my opinion, you know, because 7 of these songs really could be put on the shelf, and I wouldn't feel any worse for it. But because those songs are so strong, I would probably give the album a 7 out of 10. And that's being kind of generous, in my opinion, because, you know, if you had one side with those 4 songs, I would probably give it a 9.5 out of 10 with those 4 songs. But
you know what this album makes me want to do? It makes me want to go out and buy their greatest hits.
Well, and that's what I started with.
Yeah.
You know, and even to go further on that, what it should make you want to do is go buy their live albums, because their live albums are where this group really shines. Even some of these songs that aren't so strong on this album, when you do hear them live and they're more improvised and drawn out, and the instrumentation is brought forward and it's more raw, that's when, to me, Cream shines.
Yeah.
But I can't rate this album any higher than a 7, and that's probably being generous for me. Sorry to all you super Cream fans, and I still am a Cream fan, even though I'm not a huge Eric Clapton fan. I do enjoy Cream, but I would prefer to listen to most of their stuff live.
No, that's just is. They're such a good band. I was disappointed.
Yeah, it is what it is, though.
Yeah, but once again, I do want to go get the greatest hits version, because I feel like they're going to take those 3 or if the rest of their albums are like this, then I'm probably going to get those 3 or 4 songs from every album on one.
And you will. And their greatest hits really is where it's at. And you pick up that and a couple of their live albums, and you've got it made, in my opinion.
Yep, fair
But
enough.
if you disagree with us, feel free to reach out to us at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. Or if you like the show, let us know. Tell your friends. Reach out to us on Instagram or Twitter. You know, and until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.